The average utility loses 16% of its water supply annually. But that's just one of your challenges. Rising population is putting increasing demands on your utility's capacity limits. Extreme weather tests the resilience and sustainability of your system. Population growth and climate change escalate the importance of water preservation and reuse. Aging infrastructure is outpacing the available capital necessary to modernize your facilities. Experienced employees are retiring, leaving a knowledge gap in the workforce. Regulations are tightening. Entire systems are vulnerable to cybersecurity threats. Rockwell Automation offers smart water solutions to meet these challenges by providing expertise to spark a digital transformation that improves the operational facets of your water and wastewater systems, all built on a foundation of security. Better information leads to better decisions. By leveraging modern software tools and analytics, we create a digital solutions framework to allow more informed decision-making and improved performance. Bridging the gap between digital and physical assets, supporting the convergence of OT and IT, and fully integrating computerized maintenance management systems are critical to ensure system reliability and predictive maintenance. Digital twins, augmented reality, and modern support centers simplify resource deployment and reduce the time to resolve critical issues. Whether it's tighter regulations, emergency response, or deploying the next generation of employees, the ability to remotely monitor and control equipment means better compliance and overall asset management. Smart water solutions from Rockwell Automation help our clients stay connected and informed about their infrastructure and regulatory obligations, their maintenance schedules, their networks and security, their operations team, their customers, and their future. Start your digital transformation today. Let smart water solutions from Rockwell Automation transform your water universe.
And now introducing Janine Nielsen from Rockwell Automation.
She has over 25 years of experience in not only utility, water, and wastewater, but in automation, power control, network, and security. And Janine's a frequent speaker at many water industry events. I've actually attended, I would say, 5 or 6 of those, and is an advocate for ITOT convergence and, of course, cybersecurity. So, Janine, thank you for joining us today. We're really happy to have you here. And we also have Selen Namdar from Cisco presenting today as a guest speaker. And Selen is the global sustainability lead for industries at Cisco. Prior to joining Cisco, Selen spent 20 years at Jacobs Engineering, developing industry sector partnerships to implement innovative solutions for water and transportation agencies. She holds bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Washington, and also serves on the Smart Water Network Forums, or SWAN is the acronym, as the chair of the Americas Partnership Group. So Selen, welcome, and we're extremely happy that you're here today. Okay, about the agenda, very quick here, we're going to cover some topic areas ranging from the industry challenges and trends, infrastructure funding, which I think is very key and critical to figure out how we'll look at project work and potential avenues and vehicles to leverage grant funding, value of smart water, some of the compliance and regulation around that, and you will get into a little bit of the architecture-based approaches and security controls. And then what we'll do is we'll wrap with a couple case studies and examples to drive home what those solutions look like. And then, as mentioned earlier, we'll get into some Q&A with the remaining time with Janine and Selen. So that's the agenda for today. Looking forward to it. What I'll go ahead and hand the mic over to Selen, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean, and it's great to be here. Thanks for joining this webinar, and thank you, Rexel and Rockwell, for collaborating on this really important topic. So as you saw on the video, and as you live this day in and day out, there are many, many challenges from aging infrastructure, retiring workforce, cost of operating, maintaining facilities increasing, as well as, of course, the climate change and sustainability and resilience challenges. So there are other challenges as well that we've listed here. Many networks are pretty siloed. There's a lot of aging and old networks in place. Also, security is not necessarily up to par in many water utility environments. And there's a skill gap with many workers in the utility space for managing modern networks. There is a lot of data that is being created. There's definitely no shortage of data in the utility space, as you all know. Just the sheer amount of data, how would you capture all of that, and how would you make sense out of that and derive intelligence? Also, that there is a lot of complexity around solutions and a lot of noise in this space, frankly. A lot of vendors with a lot of available products. So being able to basically figure out what works best for your utility in your journey to achieve your goals and become more sustainable and resilient in the future. Next, please. And so kind of thinking about post-pandemic and what utilities have learned, there is some trends that are emerging that you've all, again, you've lived it, you've experienced it. The move, for example, to hybrid work or remote work, and the possibility of enabling that portion of it, at least in the future, as folks would want to have that option. Also, the ability to do remote operations and monitoring, especially when challenges arise. It was the pandemic, it could be the fires of the West, or it could be the floods, in other parts of the country. So having the ability to operate and monitor facilities remotely has become really important. Also, the shift in population, the populations are not really necessarily staying in the same place that they were. There's, as we saw during the pandemic, there was a shift that happened. And, depending on what, how the future unfolds, there could be some really big shifts that utilities need to be aware of. And so, when we think about all of this, digital solutions become really, really important, and having that visibility and having that insight into what systems are doing. Next, please. So when we think about water utilities and where they are at today, the great news is that, as you all know, the infrastructure bill just passed in November. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill. And there's a very nice size of funding available for water utilities, $55 billion for clean drinking water, as well as $50 billion for Western water storage and resilience. And again, when we think about what that means for water utilities as they get ready to capture this funding and as they get ready to implement their projects and programs, it is very critical to think about what that digital strategy looks like and making sure that there is a digital layer baked into every project and program that is going to be implemented in the future. And there is a reason for that, because digital truly helps with helping, again, really allowing the utilities to be resilient and sustainable. So there's a very big reason for having that digital strategy. Next, so when we talk about digital strategy, what do we mean? So smart water, as you know, has many different facets, and there's been a lot of use cases that have already been tested, and in fact, they are being rolled out every day at many water utilities, and you have been part of that, I'm sure, on many of these efforts. So SCADA modernization, clearly one of the low-hanging fruits. A lot of the system and SCADA systems are 50 years old or more. They're dated, they're not secure. And so the ability to bring that up to date and allow for a lot more intelligence and a lot more business insight would be critical. Also, real-time quality monitoring, predictive asset management, as well as providing equitable access to all water consumers across different regions, and optimization of energy, of course, that aligns really well with building a sustainable future. And there's a lot of water loss. As you know, there's a lot of leakage in water systems, and now we have the capability to detect a lot of those water losses and really reduce that amount of loss and provide better insight for utilities as well as consumers. And also when it comes to emergency response, for example, flood events, we have now the capability to really be in position earlier to understand kind of what's happening with water levels and what actions need to take place as a result of that using digital technologies. And of course, security is a layer that needs to be baked into every single smart water project or program. And there's a reason for that, because as you open up your systems, as you bring in different networks, such as IoT networks into your water environments, what's happening is that you're also opening the door to risk and to hacks. So it's very important to have, again, an integrated strategy for security, which we'll touch on more today. And next slide. So just very briefly, what is a smart water network? When we look at the stack, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. It really starts with that physical layer at the bottom, layer one, which those are the assets, the pumps, the valves. And then you've got the sensors that are collecting data on a real-time basis in layer two. And layer three is where you move the data, all the data that you're collecting from the sensors, you're moving it to platform layers, and that's kind of where Cisco plays the biggest role in the movement of data. And then the data is moved to platforms for displaying that information. And of course, you want to have analytics at the layer 5, bringing different silos of data together and deriving collective intelligence. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Janine to touch on cyber and kind of what that means for water utilities and why we need to pay attention to it and plan for it.
Thank you, Selene. First of all, I'm so excited today to be with our channel partner, Rexel, and our Cisco friend, Selene. And thank you to all of you for taking the time today to get to know us in this hour. Also want to congratulate you for just taking that first step to educate yourselves in this topic. And as Selene has been speaking about digital transformation and all the benefits that comes with smart water, there are some pros and cons. And you know, over the last decade, there has been an increasingly amount of cyber attacks, and they have been more sophisticated. And we've continued to see these cyber attacks as a significant risk. And this is with the ongoing change of just the work environments coming out of the pandemic. Selene spoke about that. And so we wanted to share with you, and again, I mean, this is just 2 recent cyber attacks in that has jeopardized this critical infrastructure for water, wastewater. And just in November 11th, Queensland's largest regional water supplier in Australia was targeted by hackers in a cybersecurity breach, and it was undetected for 9 months. 9 months. And so that equals, as long as a human gestation period, right? So 9 months, they were lurking there for 9 months. And this was found and discovered by a water audit. They gained access to client servers. Fortunately, no customer nor financial information was stolen. However, the hackers left suspicious files on the web server and redirected the visitor traffic to an online video platform. And the second one, and you can see I left Oldsmar. Let's revisit Oldsmar earlier this year. This really opened our eyes. This is another cyber attack that jeopardized our critical infrastructure for water, wastewater. And this attack was an unlawful intrusion by hackers accessing the control system that controls the chemical dosing of that treatment facility. So it was quite a scare. What was common with Oldsmar and with Sunwater is just a lack of basic fundamental security. But I do applaud them for disclosing these breaches. Again, it was an eye-opener for the industry. And I can tell you, every day a cybersecurity hack occurs. It just does not make the headlines. So I do applaud these utilities for disclosing the breach so that we can learn from it. Next slide, please. Okay. So these attacks really highlight the need for cybersecurity legislation. And the American Water Infrastructure Act that was signed into law in 2018 has really introduced all utilities to comply to a risk and resilience assessment and an emergency response plan based on the size of the utility and also the number of constituents. So you can see there are deadlines here that have gone and went. The last one is for the larger utility sizes due at the end of this month. And as I've been getting some updates from American Water, Wastewater Authority, it looks like a lot of the utilities have been complying. Some that are not in compliance, the EPA actually can incur or charge up to $57,000 of daily fines for non-compliance. So, we wanted to mention this. It is out there. There's legislation out there, and we know that there are utilities that are needing assistance to help in building up a cybersecurity plan. That includes a risk and resilience assessment. That includes an emergency response plan. So Rockwell, Rexel, Cisco, cybersecurity industry experts are here to support. I can also tell you the AWWA, American Water Works Authority, has a free cybersecurity assessment tool online that can also help you build up your plan. Celine also mentioned the Infrastructure Act. It's promising. We know that the majority of it is going to go to disadvantaged communities. We're also here to help our utilities to apply for those grants. And I know that some of the utilities are using it for modernization, building back better, they call it, and also future-proofing the utilities for the next century. Next slide. So we were talking about the IT and OT, and these two worlds are colliding, but they're now converging, right? And so all of these OT devices are now being part of the whole IT network. And both Cisco and Rockwell have seen the carpeted world and the non-carpeted world converge. And we're here to help and support that. Next slide. So how we can help Cisco, known to be the global leader in IT, and Rockwell, We are the global leader in automation. So having those two leaders in IT and OT, you have the best of both worlds. This is from left to right, we're talking about a strategic alliance here. This is not a new relationship. We've enjoyed this relationship together for 15 years. We're committed to industry success. We're very intimate with the water, wastewater industry and those use cases that we can help to apply to those water, wastewater applications. And then also we are dedicated for groundbreaking and innovative solutions, the cutting edge, to help support this industry. So perfect combination. Again, we thank Rexel for bringing us both these organizations to this platform to make you aware of this relationship and how we can help. Next slide. So as we survey many of our water, wastewater operation professionals, they think about reliability before security. That doesn't mean security is not important, but their mission is to keep the plant and operations running. And so when we survey our operations professionals, they often tell us, hey, everything's fine. We've deployed the best and high quality automation solutions with our operations. We're good to go. We're very secure. And, and hey, by the way, we're air gapped. We hear that all the time. And that's really a false sense of security when you talk about air gap. And the reason why we say that is we have conducted on the right assessments with utilities, and we found some of these vulnerability weaknesses in the systems. And you can see the long list, and there's more. The example that I brought up with Oldsmar, sharing of passwords, outdated operating system. That was something that was, that could have been discovered with assessments. There are many examples that we can share with other utilities that really saw the value, even though they felt that they had a solid cybersecurity plan, is really doing an assessment. Next slide. Thank you for building a plan. Thank you. So, we talk again, the two worlds, the IT and OT, the carpeted, the non-carpeted world converging, and we have a mutual goal. It's having a common secure network infrastructure. But if you look at the left, which is really the careabouts of IT, and then you look at the right, which is the careabouts of the OT, it's looking at this goal and attaining this goal through different lens, right? Different approaches. The IT world is really running a business. And in the OT world, it's keeping the process going. So sometimes it's a tug of war. But as you can see in the list, as far as priorities, architecture, the endpoints and outcomes, very different. But again, a common mutual goal that needs to have a holistic approach with the IT and OT stakeholders to build a very secure cybersecurity plan to support a common secure network infrastructure. Next slide. So Len, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Janine. So when it comes to security, if you can't see it, you cannot secure it. So it's really important to have an accurate asset inventory, to understand how to segment your networks, also to make sure that you know all the devices that could become a threat if they're not properly configured and protected. So then from there, you can list all the vulnerable devices and work with operations to build a plan to patch them. You also need to get visibility on asset communications to track misconfigured assets. Any unwanted communications and leaks in the IDMZ, and then all this information would be basically feeding into building your compliance reports. So it's really important to look at these different steps and consider them, and that'll allow you to gain visibility to make any corrective actions that you need, and segment your networks the way they need to be segmented, and also really build your security policies and drive really best practices for your security. Next, please. So when it comes to industrial automation control systems, it's really interesting that there was a survey that was done that 55% of utilities, they have no or very low confidence that they know all the devices in their network. So that's just fascinating to know that half of the assets, there's no visibility into them in the network, like what's connecting to what, what's talking to what. So, so that's kind of the beginning of the challenge right there. And you definitely need visibility into every single asset in your network, as I mentioned in the previous slide as well, and knowing what assets are communicating with what other assets. And so, so that's really kind of the key challenge right there, that half the utilities have no visibility. And so that just really means a lot of effort needs to happen to make sure that the utility is secure. Next slide, please. And so one of the key solutions that Cisco offers, which we have this solution integrated as part of our Rockwell SCADA modernization use case as well, is Cisco Cybervision. So the reason is that we need continuous threat detection. And that continuous threat detection, again, provides the visibility and security that we would need for these ITOT converged environments. So what Cybervision does is that it provides asset owners with full visibility into their ICS infrastructure. So that means it really covers that space where IT and OT come together and where the IoT devices are, and provides, that visibility into all the activity and all the assets in your system, in your ICS system. And so there are three key benefits that Cybervision brings. One is the IACS visibility, which means, for example, what assets are there? Who are they communicating with? Are they unwanted connections? Are there any unwanted connections, from or to outside? For example, if your PLC is ordering a pizza, there's something really wrong there. It's a massive security breach. And who's connecting to your control systems? Are there any vulnerable patches? So this comprehensive visibility is possible using Cybervision, and we'll be more than happy to dive into that further. We have teams that specialize in Cybervision, and we can really help you in your journey. The second benefit is operational insights. So Cybervision can extract process information from networks to give operations staff visibility into all industrial spaces and all the events in the industrial space. Any changes to process variables, any controller software changes, any subcontractor activities, you can see all of that through the software. So this wealth of information becomes really critical for OT staff to ensure 24/7 operations, continuity, and integrity of their industrial process. So it's super important to really work with OT staff to bring them up to speed and have them have access to these kinds of solutions. And then finally, threat detection. So, with all of this information on assets and application flows, CyberVision provides a comprehensive threat detection feature set. It'll allow you to figure out, if there are any anomalies in the system, and if there are any flows that are not normal, like what is normal traffic and what is not normal traffic, and CyberVision allows you to identify those and ID any specific challenge areas in your network, and also triggers alerts on your process anomalies. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand it to Janine to talk about kind of the cybersecurity importance and how it impacts utilities before, during, and after an attack.
Thanks, Celine. And I love Celine's mantra when she first started. She talked about you can't secure what you can't see. But I think, Celine, as we've been doing a lot of these presentations, it's also, and I love that pizza examples, you can't secure what you can't recognize, right? Because these hackers are very creative and they're very persistent. And so what I'll be talking to you today on this slide is a proactive approach to industrial cybersecurity, and it's the attack continuum. It's based on the defense in depth approach. And again, it's having a plan, but you have to continually work on the plan. It's not static. And I can also, what I wanted to share with you, as you spend some time with us here is, you can work with Cisco and Rockwell and Rexel to put a plan. But I guess the only takeaway I would ask for all of you is have a plan, whether you're using us or if you're going to upload all your programs into the cloud, because it's now really it's a reality that if you haven't been hacked, there's two companies, right? Ones that have been hacked and ones that will be hacked. And so have a plan, whether it's with us or you put something together in-house, please do that. So with this attack continuum, again, it's based on NIST and other standards that I'll be talking about. We from left to right, we're looking at before, where it's identifying the assets, and you're going to hear this throughout this discussion, is a risk assessment or vulnerability assessment. Again, AWWA has an online tool that provides that for compliance for AWIA. The Department of Homeland Security also provides that for free in regards to physical and security assets. But that's the first step. Assessments, identify it. Now, I can tell you, a lot of people think, oh, physical assets. It's also human assets. What are those resources that are going to support you in your physical assets, networks, and then you look at, once you make that assessment, and then it's putting together a plan for protection, and just the safeguarding those assets, segmentation. I'm sure like firewalls is a must. So all of that is our recommendations that our team can provide for you. Then you, as you go from left to right, you look at during, and that's detection. Celine just spoke about it. Threat detection services, CyberVision. That is definitely an option that you can use to bring in Cisco and Rockwell and Rexel to help with the real-time detection and that visibility that Celine was talking about. Again, detecting external and internal connections. And then you look at the end is after, and that's the disaster recovery plan. What are the countermeasures that you can provide when you do get hacked? And again, have a backup plan, whether again it's a holistic one with IT and OT, or if you're going to put everything on the cloud, or you're just going to have a separate computer with all your programs that's not connected to the network. Just please have a plan. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are standards out there that especially we work with a lot of engineering firms, Solen's from Jacobs. If you're going to have a plan, the foundation is the standards and regulations that are out there. And so, I'll highlight the ISA IEC 62443. That is something that Cisco and Rockwell, we support and endorse. Rockwell, we look at our products, our software technologies, and really input that in our designs. The other is, I mentioned, is NIST. That will also help with building up your cybersecurity framework. And again, all of these regulations, they're all out there. But again, this landscape is changing, and we can help with just the best practices with other utilities that have worked with us. And also, there are some minefields out there that we can help navigate around. But this is the first step in building a plan, is the foundation of using these standards and regulations that's proven and that's been out there for many years. Next slide. Solen, take it away.
Thank you, Janine. So now we're going to talk about a couple of case studies, examples that are very relevant to the discussions that we're having today. This first one is a project that we did with Rockwell and Jacobs. What's really special about it is that, first of all, it's one of the largest purification plants in the world, happens to be in the US. And the way that the project started was that for this brand new expansion of the purification plant, the customer, they had the IT team and the OT team that were kind of not necessarily collaborating, and they were not really talking about kind of what this plant could look like. In the meantime, Rockwell had a very strong relationship on the operation side, as well as Jacobs. So Jacobs as the engineer of this project. And Cisco had very strong working relationships with the IT side of the house. And so when we kind of started talking about this project, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we bring the IT and OT together and create an architecture that works really well to meet OT goals, and at the same time, IT can help support. That is also leading edge and really brings in the best innovations to bear. So that's kind of where we started with this effort. And once we brought the different teams together, and once IT leaders and OT leaders on the customer side started collaborating, we were able to really come up with the best possible architecture that was holistic, that was integrated, that wasn't an afterthought. And it was also secure. So as a result of this project, we've been able to create this network and the architecture that allows the customer to bring in secondary networks into that environment and integrate them, like IoT networks. They're able to do remote monitoring and control. And they're also able to bring reliability into their systems, as well as sustainability. So the key thing here is that, again, this project would have happened one way or another. This way, by bringing the teams together, the customer was able to actually leverage all the great investments they'd already made on the IT side and bring all of that and expand it into OT. So we're extremely proud of this project, and it was a fantastic partnership between Cisco, Rockwell, and Jacobs. So the next example This one is a great project that we did with Albuquerque Water. As you know, Albuquerque is a desert city. It's a water-strapped city. New Mexico is one of the most water-strapped states in the US and possibly in the world. So every drop counts in Albuquerque. And one of the key things that the Albuquerque Water wanted to do is that they wanted to create a secure, modern system in their SCADA environment. And so they partnered with Cisco on this. We actually brought some country digitization accelerator funds as well to help accelerate this project. And we were able to roll out a very nice architecture that, again, provided visibility into both IT and OT assets, really provide seamless communication for the IT-OT converged environment, and offer a single pane of glass for predictive and edge analytics, all wrapped in cybersecurity. And so the leadership at Albuquerque Water was extremely happy, has been extremely happy with this project. It's already been rolled out. It's already in use. There's a quote here from the CISO. She's extremely happy with this project, and we're so happy to have been able to support her and her team on this. But really, the peace of mind, I think one of the big things that was really important as part of this, the outcome of this project, was the peace of mind that the CISO believed that now they have, that they have now insight into what's happening, what's on the network, what is normal traffic, what is non-normal traffic, what are the anomalies, and how do you react to them in a very timely manner. And what's really cool about this project is that we collectively, on behalf of the customer, submitted this project for the Smart Cities World Expo 2021, which just happened in November. So it's very recent. And Albuquerque Water actually won the award in the category of safety and security. So we're extremely proud of this project, really happy that we had the opportunity to partner with Albuquerque Water. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sean to wrap up the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Celine. And so we've heard a lot of great content, and I've learned a ton just in the last 30 minutes. I mean, things that, I wasn't even aware of. American Water Infrastructure Act, for instance, $57,000 fine potential for compliance-related issues. So that was new to me. That's an eye opener. Also, the use case in Australia of malware lurking for 9 months, right? So that's a scary proposition. One of the things that's been consistent, and kind of as we look at what are the next steps, right, in the journey, and after today, what do we do, and how do we work together to solve, the security challenges? One thing that I've noticed a lot of asset discovery question has come up a lot, right, about what's on the network. So when you see on the screen here, these are the common kind of, as a business, this is what we see. I think holistically, these are kind of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, of areas to inspect and look at, right? So what is on the network? What's connected to it? Just what's out there? I mean, that's your kind of step one. Network segmentation, so what's happening? Are the right devices communicating, and is the right control, security controls in place for those areas? That would be another, I would say, fairly, low-hanging area to address. And then as you get into some of the more advanced areas like threat detection, how do you protect against, so you've kind of put up the firewalls and the gates and the barbed wire, et cetera. How do you, move into an area and a domain where now there's continuous threat detection? So if something pops up or something's just been sitting on the network or in the environment and 9 months later comes out, how do you get the alerting? And that's some of the tool sets that were described today, and through our services team that we can help implement for threat detection. And then the last one, I think this is important because this is a business aspect as well. One of my favorite areas is integrating the ITOT discussion for a holistic approach to security, right? So everything from corporate policy to managerial and administrative controls, all the way through to some of the technical controls, and bringing that together in a format where everybody not only can agree that something needs to be done, but will align and take action on that. So, the question is, we've talked about a lot today, covered a lot of great detail, and invariably the question we get asked is, okay, what is our next step, right? And what does that look like for, our journey as if I was a customer? So, we've seen some great chat questions in here around, hey, are there free assessment services? Are there's a number of different ways you can go approach getting started with your security journey. Our recommendation, so Janine said it best, have a plan. Doesn't matter where it is, with who, just have a plan. And, with Rexel, what we recommend is, there's a lot here. We don't expect you to be experts in it. That's why we have network and security specialists that can help with anything from just your basic assessment to say what is on the network, what's happening in the environment, and to some more advanced implementation and management of the network. So we don't expect you to be, we don't expect you to be experts. That's why we're here. That's why Cisco's here. That's why Rockwell's here. That's why we have ecosystem partners to all bring this together, so you don't have to solve for this alone, and we can work together to optimize your security posture. So first step is reach out to, if you have a contact account manager relationship with a specialist with Rexel or Rockwell or Cisco, reach out to them. That gets the conversation started. That communication's key, the collaboration's key, and then all of us, the commitment to the plan is key. So we also have a email address up here. So if you have a hot issue and you don't have a contact, I encourage you to contact us immediately. If you have any concerns or questions, or something's popped up, or you just want to say, hey, I like what I heard, but I don't know where to get started. And that's where we'll partner with you and start your security journey. Okay, so again, I'd like to thank the speakers. That's fantastic having you on. I think we've all learned a ton. I know that I personally have. We have about 8 minutes left, so I definitely want to cut over to some Q&A in the chat. So again, appreciate the presentation and all the information. And now we'll open up for some Q&A, and let's get some good questions going while we have the experts on the line. Okay, let's see here. So I don't see anything. I see some technical questions, and it looks like we've got some good dialogue going back and forth. So I have a quick question. So this pizza and PLC thing, did that really happen?
We've heard of that one way or another. Rocky, I think you may know of an instance. I know we talked about it before.
Yeah, it did happen, but it was not a PLC. It was a different industrial device. But yeah, okay. True story.
All right. Okay. Let's see. So I'll tell you what. I have a serious question, right? So let's maybe this one for Janine. The common objections, that you see in the industry as far as, when you just first meet with a client, that there's a security issue, kind of maybe what are some of your insights on what that looks like, common objections?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Of course, I mentioned it before, when we pull water, wastewater, OT professionals, they would mention about, hey, we're fine. Don't worry about it. We got it covered. We're air gapped, and we talked about how that's a false sense of security. The other one is the budget, right? Where are we going to get this money? How are if we're going to put this plan in place? It sounds like I'm going to have to overhaul my system. We can't afford it. We have to keep the plant up and running, and so we just don't have a budget for it. And I guess what I would recommend is, especially OT, IT, all the stakeholders that have this this responsibility to know what your risk is. And it is up to that team to make the council, to make the board aware that there is a risk. Because if it does make the headlines, they're in the spotlight. And so I would just say, one, go out there and just like you're doing now, educate yourself, see if you can just look at even a light risk assessment and make the board aware of it. And you did your job, you made them aware of it. And so the board can go and apply for grants and get funding. Or if they choose not to, even though they're aware that there is some risk, if they choose not to do anything, then that's on them. But you did your job, you did your due diligence to go and at least assess and ask what's hanging on your device. And so, we've seen this, Sean. We've seen some companies that they just take the cyber attacks as just a cost of doing business. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
By the way, I see Andy saying wastewater have huge budgets. I don't know if he's being facetious or not, but.
All right, let's see. Chat is open, so anyone has questions, we've got about 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes left, so we have time for a couple of questions. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So that was confirmed. Wastewater have huge budgets. All right. Well, that's good to know. Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
All right. So Selene, maybe a question around sustainability. Maybe you could just give us a comment around sustainability, how that plays into the security question. Maybe just your experiences with smart water, sustainability. You kind of hit on that in the beginning of the session here. Are there regulations that are impacting? I mean, we know that there are compliance around security controls, but any regulations maybe from a government or agencies around sustainability measures?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's that's a great question, and it's a big passion of mine personally as well, and in this role that I have. So water is sustainability. I mean, when we think about sustainability, water is a huge part of that puzzle. And so, when it comes to different organizations, one of the key things they're doing is really reducing their water usage just in general, because especially, when it comes to, for example, tech companies, right? So they use a lot of water for cooling their systems and data centers, et cetera. And it's all about really reducing that footprint as much as possible. And then, of course, we have water-strapped areas that don't have access to enough water. So how can they make every single drop count? And those utilities are under a lot more pressure to allow that to happen. And so kind of the connection to cybersecurity, again, is making sure that your systems are running 24/7 and there's no downtime. I mean, a lot of these cybersecurity hacks and a lot of these risk areas and ransomware, et cetera, they really kind of lock some of the key systems that allows people to have access and utilities to be able to provide the water that is needed to the public and ensure public health. And so, these are kind of the underlying elements of sustainability when we think about, for example, cybersecurity. When it comes to regulations, obviously with COP26 and everything that was promised by a variety of countries, the key thing is that basically every organization, including governments, they have to go towards net zero. That's kind of a given goal to keep that 1.5 degrees centigrade of global warming, for that to be the cap and not go above that. And so reducing carbon footprint and going to net zero. So when we think about regulations, we can expect a lot of regulations to come down the pike from government to government organizations, as well as, all the other organizations. One example is that I just got actually a notification from Washington Post on President Biden to sign an executive order to make the federal government carbon neutral by 2050. That just hot off the press today, just like an hour ago. So you can expect a lot of regulations to come down. So how do you get your organization in place and get ready and start to implement sustainable solutions that allows you to reach those goals? So very important, top of mind. And of course, when it comes to bonds and financial markets and how funding, kind of other funding sources come to utilities, there's going to be regulations there too. Banks are going to be lending money to organizations that are sustainable, that can prove they're sustainable. So there's going to be a whole host of regulations from different parts of the industry, different entities that are going to come down the pike. So yeah, very important topic.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. So, and that's great because we talk a lot about security and compliance as it relates to cyber, but getting a view of what that looks like from a, sustainability, environmental responsibility perspective is fantastic. So thank you for that. And looks like we've just reached the top of the call. So I would, like to, I would first and foremost like to thank Janine, Selene, and all of our attendees from our customers, ecosystem partners, and teams. So fantastic dialogue, discussion. The questions have been awesome. The engagement has been awesome. We really look forward to continuing and helping build out this journey, helping optimize ITOT security posture. So on behalf of Rockwell Automation, Rexel, Cisco, we thank you for attending today, and any questions that we didn't get to, I think Greg just made a note in there. We'll go ahead and respond back to make sure everybody's gotten their questions answered. So Greg, I saw you just pop on video.
Hey, Sean, I was going to make another recommendation. I know a lot of people are going to have to jump, but we can keep the chat open for the next 5 minutes or so. If people have additional questions, I would encourage them to send them in. And we'll capture everyone and make sure that we personally follow up on each one. So we'll keep the chat open as long as the questions are coming in. And like I said, we'll follow up accordingly.
Hey, just a quick shout out. I love the activity, the questions on the chat, and thank you for keeping that open, Greg. I just wanted to give a shout out to Rocky Smith from Cisco, from Robert Hubbard from Cisco, and also Luis Ramos with Rockwell Automation. They're the ones that are answering your questions in the chat. So just keep it going, and they're our Selene and my support and in the technical fashion to respond to your questions. So thank you so much for asking those questions. And thank you for the opportunity, Rexel.